Hey everybody, it's Kaden. I haven't made a video in a really long time, which is disappointing for me because I really like making them. I like interacting with everybody. I like being a resource. That's kind of why I started doing these videos in the first place, was because when I first started transitioning or even looking into what that meant, YouTube was a huge resource for me, and there were lots of trans guys who posted videos about their own transition and were very personal and vulnerable about their own journeys, and so that was really inspiring, and it really honestly did help give me the courage and the push that I needed to actually take the leap and look into what it was going to look like to medically transition and what it was going to look like to transition for me, because transitioning can look differently and does look differently for everyone. Not everyone medically transitions, meaning no hormones, no surgery, nothing like that. Some people do a mix, some people do one and not the other, and there's no one way to be trans. There's no right way to be trans. This is just my journey, so I like doing these videos so I can share kind of what's going on with me. Since my last video though, I have had some pretty big things happen. I got married, so now I'm hitched, and I'm pretty stoked about it. My wife is amazing. I have 3 really dope stepkids now. I wanted to kind of approach this video getting back into things because I don't want this to just be a video for people who are trans or people who are looking to transition, but I also want my videos to be a resource for families of people who are trans, or if your kid is looking to transition, or you have a friend or a family member, anything like that. I just want to be a resource in a safe space where you can find maybe some answers. Again, I don't claim to know everything because I'm just sharing my own journey, but whatever helps. Just trying to do my part, pay it forward a little bit like those guys did for me when I was starting out my journey. So I have a notebook here with some questions that are commonly asked of trans people. I do want to have a disclaimer here though before I get started that not all trans people are open about their journeys, and that is totally acceptable, and they deserve their privacy and they have a right to privacy. Be respectful. Trans people are human beings. We're not circus animals. I don't have a tail. Last time I checked, I didn't have a tail, and I don't have horns. I'm not some kind of animal. I'm a person, and just because I'm open and vulnerable about my own journey doesn't mean that other people are, and that's totally fine. We all need to respect each other's privacy. Don't ask inappropriate questions. The number one question I always get from people, including strangers: do you have a penis? And that's just an inappropriate question all the way around. I don't go asking people what's in their pants or what kind of genitals they have, and it's just really not an appropriate question to ask anyone, so let's just get that off the table right away. I will talk about that though later in other videos, however, I'm not going to talk about it in this one. So let's get started with the first question here. What does being trans mean? Being trans means essentially that your biological sex, the sex that you were born with, which I was assigned female at birth, so I was born a female, does not align with your gender identity. So my gender identity is male. I identify as a man. My pronouns are he, him. So basically being trans is that your gender identity doesn't match the biological sex that you were born with. On that note, cisgender, or being cis, means that you were biologically born in the body that you identify as your gender identity. So being cisgender is not a slur, and I've heard a lot of people say, "Oh, is that a slur?" because they call me cis. It's not a slur. So cis has its Latin root, which means on this side. So on the same side. So your biological gender is on the same side as your gender identity. Trans has its Latin root in meaning across from. So my biological sex is across from my gender identity. They don't align, they don't match. So if you ever hear me use that term cisgender, that just means someone who was born in the body, in the gender identity, in the biological sex that their gender identity happens to align with. Let's see here. Oh, this is a good one. Are gender identity and sexual orientation the same thing? No, they are not. Gender identity is basically who you are. Your sexual orientation is who you're attracted to or who you love. So gender identity is who I am as a person. It has nothing to do with the type of person that I'm attracted to or the type of person I love. I could be a masculine man. I do identify as a masculine man, though I do have my feminine moments, ask my wife. So I could be a masculine man and be attracted to men. That's, it has nothing to do with who I am as a person. I'm a masculine man who's attracted to women. But everything's a spectrum. So basically, gender identity is also a spectrum. So I don't like to look at it as a binary because that kind of defeats the purpose of being trans. So by that I mean I don't look at the gender identity spectrum as just being male, female, that's it. Like there are lots of things in between male and female, and that's when we get gender identities like non-binary, which means that you don't identify with either male or female, or you identify with both, or sometimes more one or the other. And that also goes along with gender fluidity. Like sometimes I'm feeling masculine, sometimes I'm feeling feminine, sometimes I want to identify as male or female or somewhere in between. It's a spectrum. It's definitely not this box or this box. And then there's agender, where you don't necessarily feel like your gender identity aligns with any, any identity, male or female, but it's easier if you think of it as a spectrum from masculine to feminine. I like to think of myself, I'm a male who identifies on the more masculine end of the spectrum. But then you have my wife, who was biologically born female. She's cis, she identifies as a woman, but she's also pretty fluid in that there are some days that she's feeling more masculine and there are some days that she's feeling more feminine. And it doesn't change who she is, but she fits somewhere in the spectrum. So that's kind of how I like to look at it. I don't like to look at it as boxes, because humans shouldn't be put in boxes. That doesn't make sense. We want to break out of those. How do you tell if someone is transgender? Well, that is a very difficult process, and it starts with step one, which is you don't. And you know what? Actually, that's just the end of it. You just don't. You're not supposed to know if someone is transgender. There are no identifiers. And honestly, you shouldn't be looking for that. It's not any of your business. It's not my business who you identify as. It's not anyone's business who I identify as. But I am vulnerable, and I share my identity, and I share my journey because I think it's a good learning resource and tool for other people who are new to this, or people who want to start the journey. So don't ask those questions. That's invasive. Let's leave each other alone. There's no way to tell if someone's transgender. What is gender dysphoria? So gender dysphoria is something that a lot of trans people have and struggle with, but not everyone. So to be dysphoric, it essentially means the biological sex that you were born into is distressing because it doesn't match with your gender identity. So like I said, not everyone struggles with dysphoria. I personally do. It has a lot to do with, for example, body image, or like your voice. Like sometimes I still struggle with the sound of my voice because I don't necessarily like it, or I think it sounds too feminine sometimes. But that's just, part of dysphoria that I have to deal with. And in reality, there's no right or wrong way that a man's voice should sound or a woman's voice should sound. It's just my voice, and this is how it sounds. But it is a serious thing that should be taken very seriously. Struggling with dysphoria is extremely uncomfortable. It can cause severe depression. It is not a joke. So if someone is telling you that they're feeling dysphoric, it's important to support them and, take it seriously. Into the last piece here that I wanted to talk about is, I just found out that my friend, my sister, my brother, my son, my daughter, my cousin, my aunt, whoever it may be, is trans. I just found out my loved one is trans. What do I do? Well, the first answer is don't panic. There's nothing to panic about. Your loved one trusts you enough to come out to you and to tell you this, so you should feel very, privileged with that information, that they trusted you enough to come to you and tell you that. Secondly, listen to them. Listen to what they have to say. It takes a lot of courage a lot of times to do these things, so listen to them. Just try. Pronouns are hard for some people. I know that, it was really hard for my family to transition from she, her pronouns to he, him pronouns, but they tried, I saw them try. They would correct themselves, and there's a big difference, when you see your family members and your friends trying and giving an effort. It makes a big difference. The other thing you can do is very important, is educate yourself. We have Google, we have search engines, we have tiny little computers that we carry in our pocket around with us everywhere. If there's a question, that you're nervous about asking, try Googling it. Try getting the answer yourself. That we have this amazing resource that we take for granted all the time, but educating yourself will really be apparent, and your loved one will notice that. I mean, it will make a big difference. They will know. And be respectful. Like I started out with, trans people are human beings, and we deserve respect just like you deserve respect, and they're still your loved one. They're still the same person, and they trusted you. So that's pretty incredible, actually. The last thing I wanted to end on is just saying that you know, I like to share my life candidly, and I like to talk about a lot of things, but I still have my privacy. You know, I'm not going to share everything about my life. But if you do have questions, if there are things that you're wondering about, I am an open book, pretty much. I want to be a resource. I want to help people. If you have someone who's struggling, or someone, you know, that doesn't know how to come out to their parents or anything like that, or thinks that their parents might benefit from having a conversation with me, I am open to it. Connect with me. I will help as much as I can, and if I don't have the answer, I will use my resources and find an answer for you. You can always reach out to me on Instagram. My Instagram handle is k.lovin, k.lovin. Send me a message there. I reply to all my messages, unless you're being an a-hole, in which case I will not reply to you. But I reply to all my messages because it's important to me. I really look forward to doing this again. I look forward to, you know, creating all kinds of videos and having you guys meet my wife and my family, and, you know, to learn and grow together. So we'll see where it goes from here.